Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Anna Agrat. I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships here at AMT Advancing Nonprofits. And we're so excited to be partnering with our friends at the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation to be presenting a series of workshops for capacity building for nonprofits. And today we are joined by our very own here at AMT, our communications manager, Diego Roman, who's going to be talking to us about communications and social media. And so, just a little bit to get us all centered. Diego, you can go to the next slide. Just want to encourage all of you to make sure to stay comfortable and engaged with us. Stay hydrated. Make sure that you can use the reaction buttons. You can comment in the chat if you need to, or raise your hand, or come off of mute. Let us know your questions. Feel free to engage as you feel comfortable. And a little bit about AMT, in case you don't know anything about us, we are committed to strengthening the organizational health and supporting the long-term development of small nonprofits here in Chicago, specifically on the South and West sides. We are really here for the Black and Latina-led nonprofit organizations who are serving Black and Latina communities. We're hoping to also transform philanthropy by addressing systemic racial inequities and serving as a model for anti-racist systems. And we are looking forward to a future where there's significant and sustained investment in Chicago's Black and Latina communities. So we're here really to support in building your capacity as nonprofit organizations, specifically the Black and Latina-led ones on the South and West sides of the city. And we want to amplify your work and prioritize developmental relationships. So this morning, we're going to hear from Diego, and I'm so very excited to kick it off to you, Diego. Please go ahead and take us through this incredible presentation that you have for us today.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, y'all. My name is Diego Roman. I am the communications manager here at AMT. I've been here since August, so I'm a little new, but I'm very excited to be here with you all. My pronouns are he, him, his. I have 2 years of experience in communications, and most of that is in nonprofit. I graduated from NEIU with a bachelor's in communications and minor in journalism. So just so y'all know my credentials, I'm not coming out of here nowhere. Before this, I worked at Leiden High School for quite a bit as a communications assistant. And after that, I worked at the AIDS Foundation of Chicago as the communications specialist. So I have quite a bit of experience in nonprofit communications in particular. A couple of things about me. I have 2 dogs, Troy and Lady. They're both little wiener dogs. Troy is the nicest dog you'll ever meet. Lady and I have a love-hate relationship. So she's a little all over the place. I'm a big MCU fan. I love comics and superhero content. You might be able to see some superhero stuff back here. I love Invincible. It's probably my favorite show right now on Amazon Prime. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, although I'm not practicing. And so if you have any Halloween or Christmas movie recommendations, please send them my way. Go ahead and put those in the chat if you want to, because I'm trying to catch up a little bit. So today we have a couple of learning objectives when it comes to communications, starting with understanding our audience, followed by understanding social media as a whole. Once we understand those 2 things, we can create a consistent brand. And then I'm going to show you how AMT has been using everything we learned today on our socials for fundraising. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I can answer them as I see them. Or you can raise your hand and we can talk. I do not mind. But we also have a portion at the end of the presentation for questions as well. So if you want to save it for that, we can do that there. But questions always welcome. So let's go ahead and get started, starting with understanding our audience. So when understanding your audience, you need to understand what your ideal audience is. While everyone is an admirable goal for an audience, we're likely not going to get everyone to follow us on everything, right? So you need to think critically about who you want to be engaging with your content. What do you want from your audience? Do you want them to be community members in your neighborhood, donors, volunteers? What age range would they be ideally? These questions will help you narrow down what kind of content you make and what social media platforms you should use. They don't have to necessarily just be one of these things. It could be multiple different types of people. You could want donors, volunteers, and people in your neighborhood, but you need to understand which ones you want most and what you want in general. It's important to remember that whatever you make, share, post, you should be talking to these people as if you are having a conversation with them. Keep them in mind whenever you make any kind of content, and you'll be engaging with them. Any kind of, in general, when you talk to someone specifically, they're going to listen. That's just like 101. Your audience doesn't have to be, again, one kind of person. It can be all of the above, but narrowing that down will help your content stay on track and stay relevant. So now on to social media, which is going to be a little bit of a bigger beast. Now we know who our audience is. Now we need to understand social media. It's important to remember that not every social media platform was made for the same audience, nor was it made for the same purpose. Not only that, it was most social media platforms, what they were intended for are not what they're used for. Facebook was intended to connect with people and to access information about them, like if they were single or where they go to school, right? Now it's more utilized by people to spread news and articles that validate their own opinions. Snapchat was made to send pictures to your friends. Now it's used for cheating, like we're talking to people and so understanding not only what the platform was used for, was made for, but also understanding what it is currently used for is important when deciding where you want to prioritize your social media. So let's talk through some of these, starting with who are using each social media platform. That's important. Now, while all of these are general, because we likely have quite a few of these platforms ourselves, right? And we're all in specific age ranges. This is kind of more who's using each platform or engaging with it the most. If you're searching for a younger audience, let's say 20s or younger, you're most likely going to be using TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It's a bit general, but if you want to remember these, think shorter attention spans. We want engaging content that's quick, fast, and easy to digest. You can kind of get more of it, right? TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, generally video, generally photos with a little bit of writing here and there. If you're looking for an audience of more 20s to 40s, I put middle age. It's not really middle age. I think they're just normal age, right? Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are more the ways to go. Although Twitter is extremely popular, it's pretty hard to grow and keep engagement. So keep that in mind, but the other three will definitely foster great engagement. Finally, if you're looking for an older audience, 50s and above, I would say Facebook is definitely the way to go. Facebook has become many older people's intro into social media and tends to be where they stay. In my experience, I would prioritize the highlighted platforms. Those will do you the best. As we can see, Instagram is for younger audiences and middle-aged audiences, and Facebook is for older audiences and middle-aged audiences. And then Twitter, LinkedIn as well. I think those, you don't have to use all of these, but I would prioritize these in general because most likely, as far as nonprofits go, these are where you're going to gain the audiences that you want. And they can be utilized pretty similarly. If you have one photo that you like, you can use that on Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. And they all kind of are the same, as opposed to TikTok, where you'll have to make very specific content for TikTok instead. Now that we know who is going to be on each platform, we can kind of think of tricks and tips for each social media platform. While this is going to, how are we going to ensure content growth from each social media platform, right? That's what we mainly want. That's going to mainly come from your content, of course, but there are some tricks you can use to gain engagement and growth from each platform. Starting with Facebook, due to the audience that we have, right? Like older audiences that tend to use it for news and links and stuff, right? They want, in general, news articles. So if you want to write a lot of content for a Facebook post, that's likely going to gain more engagement. 4 to 5 paragraphs of a heartfelt message is going to do much better on Facebook than on Instagram. People also, again, they love links on Facebook. So if you have a blog, post that link to Facebook, you're going to get a lot of engagement. You're going to get a lot of clicks. People want to see those. It looks very professional and it looks very trustworthy on Facebook. So definitely send your links there, send your blog posts there as much as possible. TikTok, it's a fairly new social media platform, but it can be an effective one. I highly recommend, if you decide that your organization wants to use TikTok, hire an intern who is younger than me, because TikTok is kind of definitely a younger platform and highlights younger people. So find an intern who knows video making experience. Emphasize bits, trends, dances, and jokes over information. While that information can be good in some videos, in general, you're going to want to follow trends, because there's going to be a time of the day where everyone's doing a certain dance or a certain bit or a certain joke, and you're going to want to do it while it's hot. So that's how you're going to gain TikTok trends and stuff. Instagram is best used when emphasizing humanity in people. It was made for photos, so you want to highlight people in those photos. While events and graphics can be useful on there, you're going to want a healthy mix of both to make your Instagram page flourish. So people want to see people on Instagram. I highly recommend that if you do have a lot of posts that are graphics or events, highlight people in those graphics. Use photos in those graphics if possible. It'll make your Instagram page have much more engagement. LinkedIn is basically what it's always marketed itself as. It's networking. You're networking with people, and it's a little bit of patting each other on the back, a little bit kind of. So you're going to want to do that. Highlight your friends, highlight different organizations, tag them, cheer them on. You're going to get growth back. People love that. It's networking, and we all know how to network a little bit. And while Twitter, like I said, it's a little bit difficult to gain engagement, and honestly speaking, I don't know how much longer Twitter is going to be a reliable social media platform. It seems to be going down the drain a little bit this past year. Use photos for your tweets. Those tend to get more engagement. Use hashtags in your tweets, and definitely use photos that are fitted to the square. If you want to use multiple photos, have them fitted to the landscape style. That just makes them look more professional. And Threads as well is the same way. Threads is, I don't know if y'all know Threads. It's kind of like the Instagram's version of Twitter. It's also been kind of going around. This goes for both of them. But I don't know how long either of those platforms are going to work. I would say utilize them for now, but don't prioritize Twitter right now, because again, that platform's a little bit wonky currently. And then here are some general social media tips this goes for all pages. When it comes to social media, treat each page like a home. Now, what does that mean? Kind of think of every post as an invitation for people to look at your page or come into your home. When they come into your home, do they want to? Think about it like, if they see the page isn't very active, or if the graphics are out of date, or the page doesn't have any links, or the bio isn't filled in, they may have second thoughts about following your page. Keeping your page clean, consistent, and fixed up will ensure other people will want to follow your page. So yeah, make sure all those pages look nice and clean, and then you're going to get more follows for sure. Be sure to connect those pages via a bio site or links on each page. You'll find that on Facebook, there's an option to add more social media links. So add your YouTube page, add your Instagram, add your Twitter on that. If you have a lot of people on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, and you've connected all of your pages, likely those people will follow you on the other pages as well, which will ensure growth. So make sure all your pages are connected somehow, where you can find all of them. Invite your connections. So you definitely have friends on Facebook, you have friends on LinkedIn. There is an option where you can invite them to like your page or follow your page. Do it. Do it with those that you feel comfortable with, or all of them if you would like as well. There's no harm in it. If you have 200 friends and 25% of them follow you, your page just grew by 50 followers. That's not nothing. That's quite a bit of growth in one day, right? Or over time. So definitely invite those connections. Be proud of your page. Be proud of your work, and go ahead and send that invite. Shorten those links as well. If you have a lot of links, a lot of calls to actions, use sites like TinyURL or Bitly and that'll ensure to make your post look cleaner and smaller as well. You can use Bitly to change the URL name too. So let's say hypothetically you're promoting this workshop. You could change it to bit.ly-Diego Communications or Amped Communications or Communications Workshop. And it'll make your organization look much more professional. And Bitly also gives you free URLs, 50 of them a month, which is plenty. I'm also not paid by Bitly. I'm just a fan. Finally, and this is probably the hardest one to truly do because I don't know how, like, it's hard, but be genuine, which is, it's hard as a human being to be genuine sometimes, right? Like we try, we're thinking about a lot of other people and we're thinking about a lot of people's thoughts and feelings and stuff, which is obviously important, but being genuine is going to get you the most engagement and the most consistent connections. We as human beings know when someone is lying or not being 100% truthful, right? So don't fake a story. Don't put meaning into something where there isn't. Do a true quote, a true story, a true moment with pictures, and that'll foster better connections and longer connections. Because we as human beings, we want honesty, right? So again, it's difficult and it's easier said than done, but definitely strive for being genuine. So now we have all our social media tricks. Now we need to create a consistent brand. So hard, again, another thing that's easier said than done, right? We need to think about what we want from this brand. Like, who are we as an organization? Much like people wearing clothes, what's your brand and the colors and the images that you put, it says something about you, even if you don't think it does. Are you fun? Are you serious? Are you aiming for professional? Are you aiming to be open or closed off, bright? All of these things are things that we should consider when creating a brand. Your brand's an opportunity to reimagine how you want to be perceived, which is pretty cool, actually. Like, we don't get a lot of options to do that often. So that's pretty interesting. And some of you, most likely you already have a brand of some kind, and some of you may be thinking, I do have a brand and I have been posting, but I don't necessarily entirely like my brand, which is fair. Like, that happens sometimes. You can rebrand softly over time, or you can do a harsh rebrand. A soft rebrand is when you slowly wean off what you're doing and try to create something new over time that still feels consistent, right? Think Parks and Rec. Like in the first season, they had a character that wasn't really working, so they slowly got rid of him and added Adam Scott and Rob Lowe, right? Like, and then now the show is amazing, right? And it feels natural. Or you can do a hard relaunch with new logo, new style. Brands do it all the time. And you can kind of create an event out of it. Like, we're rebranding. Here's our new logo. Check out these new colors. Check out this new, if you have merch, here's new merch, right? Think like Chuck E. Cheese when they made Chucky kind of like smaller and without a hat. Or I don't know, Bob the Builder, Google, Burger King. They do this all the time. They change their logos all the time. It can be an event. It can be cool. So you can do that as well. Changing your brand is something that, if you feel the need to, I say definitely go and do it. It can be fun. So now that we have our brand, we want to create a consistent brand, right? Create a style guide. Definitely, we want. Did I freeze up? I froze up a little bit. Are we still good? Cool.
You're still
Okay,
good, Diego. Don't worry.
that's good. I want to make sure all the words are all good and stuff. We have an idea of what we want our brand to be, so now we want it to be consistent, right? So I highly recommend creating a style guide. What fonts does your company use? What colors do they use? Secondary colors? What graphic images do we want? Putting that all together in one place definitely will make all of your posts and social posts feel more consistent, which is important, right? Here's an example of our style guide currently. I'm actually not sure who put this together because this was before my time, but it's great. It's awesome. It's got all our colors, all of the numbers for our colors, style, amp logo, and all of our little graphics that we want. There's also a secondary page to this, but this one is just kind of a good example of just like kind of what we're all talking about, right? So while it may feel like unnecessary right now, over time, you will see that your brand has a very specific identity. And when you look at your page and you scroll up and down your page, you will see it as well. And it's kind of this nice feeling, right? Of like all of your work all coming together. So Definitely. If you want a new logo that is unique to you, I definitely I highly recommend getting a graphic designer, hiring a consultant. It's like the one place where I'd say like don't skimp on that. They may also be able to put a style guide together for you after a conversation. But once you have all of these thoughts and questions together, that'll be an easy conversation for you two to have. And so that way, maybe it won't be as long of hours, save a little bit of money. But yeah. So now that we've done all of this, right, we can kind of take a look at what Amped has been doing through our fundraising campaign and how it's all come together, right? So I want to show you a glimpse of that. This is our end of year campaign as well as our Giving Tuesday campaigns. You may be able to find a through line with our graphics now that you have done this. You've seen this slideshow. One thing you might notice, they all have the same font. Consistency, right? We wanted to have that consistent branding. They all utilize the white Amped logo, mainly because it pops. I just think it works well on our graphics. But again, consistency. And our Giving Tuesday graphics utilize the same orange box, which became our like unofficial logo of Giving Tuesday. If you scroll back on all of our social media platforms, every Giving Tuesday campaign graphic had the orange box. So again, we want that consistency. We want something that kind of ties them all together. We utilized a number of different graphics for Giving Tuesday, each with the tagline Amped Up Donations for Giving Tuesday. And we also created this Put Your Money Where Amped Is graphic to send to our donors. While this isn't on our social media pages, it did go to some fundraising. So it was an important part of it. So I highly recommend if you have capacity and want to make some emails fun, creating a graphic for them could be a good way to spice things up a little bit, for special occasions. So finally, we are using graphics for our amped raffle at the end of the year. So you can see down here, we've been using socials to promote not just the raffle, but each individual prize. And you can see this one, we have lunch with our executive director, Angela. This graphic doesn't just highlight the prize, but people, like I've been talking about, as well as the link where you can donate and how you can receive an amped tote, all in these orange colors, right? And finally, we have this one has not come out yet, but this is from a small but fun photo shoot for our amped totes. We're still highlighting the amped raffle, but we're going to be using our amped staff to kind of highlight some amped totes and have some fun with it. So remember, we're highlighting that human element. While this photo shoot it is going to be on all of our social media platforms, it was made with Instagram in mind, right? We want that human element. And so while again, this is going to go on all our platforms, it's designed specifically to do well on Instagram. So as you can see, while there is uniformity between our different types of amped fundraising methods, there is also some fun and differences in colors, photos, graphics. We're trying new and different ways each time. And, each of these ways are thought out with our audience in mind. They have our amped logo, our amped graphics, our amped ideas, but they're different. And I think that trying new and different things is also a really important part of communications because, we're going to see what works best and what doesn't. And we're having a little bit of fun while doing it. So, yes. And that would be the presentation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Diego. I feel like we really wanted to leave a lot of time to get your specific questions specifically about your social media, because we know social media can be so subjective. And so would really love to hear from all of you what you're doing with your social media, and if you have very specific questions that Diego can respond to right now. And Diego, maybe if you want to share your screen of what our Instagram looks like right now so everyone can see.
For sure. Give me one moment to pull that up. So as you can see from here, these are some of the amped up donation graphics that we were talking about earlier. We had our save the dates. We had a couple of different ideas for that. This is more of a general one, but this was kind of our wedding idea of save the date as well that we utilized. These are all of our amped up donations. Again, human element that we were talking about as much as possible. And this is our amped season of giving raffle, kind of explaining how to enter. And then we have our prizes going on as well. As you can see, we have lunch with Anna, which you all can win right now if you would like. And we have the one-on-one workshop as well. And we're going to be continuing this as well. We got a one-on-one workshop on youth development that we'll be sending out today on all of our socials. And again, kind of doing a mix of the human element with the graphics as well, kind of prioritizing people on Instagram as opposed to the graphics themselves. And when we do have the graphics, we have the people. So.
And Diego, what would you say works like the best, even from your experience on our amped stuff since you've been here? Like, what types of posts would you say work the best on Instagram or maybe even on LinkedIn that you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the specifically workshops are very well taken on LinkedIn, especially when we tag our person who is giving the talk. I think those do amazing. So again, highlighting people, specifically what they do on LinkedIn is awesome. I think on Instagram, definitely the people, the accomplishments, but with photos, right? As much as graphics are great, again, and they're very useful, highlighting people and accomplishments. Like this is us when we got to 1,000 followers, and this has been our highest engaged post. We have a little bit of fun, we have a little bit of humanity here. This is all genuine. Um, our excitement as well. We have the nice photo and then we have the fun one. So going for people first. Again, this is our amped Project Elevate announcement with all the photos from the event. High engagement. We want that people first, and then at the end we have the Project Elevate. We have the photos, the nice photos, but to prioritize anything, we want to prioritize the people that we serve, right? So those are going to do the best on Instagram. As far as Facebook goes, things with calls to action like links, anything with a follow us here or look at this. This is important. Those are going to do well on Facebook. Twitter is kind of a mixed bag, as I said, and so is Threads. But those would be the best engagement, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And as you were thinking through this end of year fundraising, and like planning for how you would use social media for that fundraising, what were some of the key things you were keeping in mind for like planning that strategy?
Definitely organization. We were thinking about how we can send out these messages consistently without being overwhelming, right? It's important that we send out all these messages at a consistent time. Another good tip is that schedule all your posts out to come out at like 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. or something like that. That tends to be seen as more professional for whatever reason, because big big organizations tend to do that. So we want it to be consistent, but again, not overwhelming, right? We don't want to flood your what is it? What's the word? When the posts, we don't want to flood it with just posts about you know give us money, but we do want to remind you to please give us money. So it's important to find that balance, right? So while we did have 3 posts on Giving Tuesday itself, these posts are a week apart. So we're not overwhelming you on a day-to-day basis, but instead giving you gentle reminders every week. And these are coming out every 2 or 3 days. So they're, again, consistent reminders, but they're all a little bit different because they all have a little bit of a different message. These in particular all have the exact same message, right? So we don't want to overwhelm with that too much. But these all have different workshops, different prizes, so we can do these a little bit more consistently. So if you're sending out the same message, definitely don't spread those out, you know. But if they have some changes or some additions, then you can be a little bit more consistent. So we're doing these 3 times a week. So yeah,
I have a question.
for sure.
Do you have anything that works best for like youth engagement or like programs that they would like to see coming up, like ranging between 13 or 19? Is it more like a graphic and then here's a link for you to register, or just like give us a call or DM? What is the best method to try to get that age range to interact a little bit more?
For sure. I worked at a Leiden High School, as I said before, and that was something that we noticed, that while we had 2 campuses, finding engagement with the younger audience was something that they were struggling with, and that's kind of why I was brought in. And so what we found was the best way to invest in, or get these people to invest in us, was to highlight them. And while you can't highlight a younger audience, perhaps in the way of like them specifically, in the way that our school did, you can highlight using pictures of these programs, if you have any, of the younger audience, them having fun, them doing events. Again, that real, genuine, those genuine pictures as opposed to stage photos of that. That will, one, get them interested in going because they will see the younger audience, they will see themselves in that. And 2, you will get parent engagement because they'll be like, oh, this is a youth event. So again, that I would say definitely create graphics, I'd say similar to these, but with, like with pictures in them, kind of explaining what it is, but with those pictures of that age range and getting them excited about that. And perhaps some video as well, video content like Instagram Reels, or TikTok again is a possibility, but Instagram Reels work just as well. Showing those events, or and with some music and stuff with a call to action, will likely get you that younger audience. Again, they love something with that short attention span. They love something with quick content. So
Oh my gosh, Diego, yes, I want to co-sign all of that and just chime in really quick, Janet, because I know you were on our call earlier with Praxis about evaluation. And I feel like that's also a really great opportunity to kind of blend the two, to actually ask the youth who do show up for your programs where they heard about the programs and like how they were like notified, because that's a really great insight into like where are the youth getting the information to begin with, so that you can target more in those places as well.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I also worked at the AIDS Foundation of Chicago. One thing we utilized was Capital Canary, which was a program designed specifically for text messages for laws and congressional hearings and stuff like that, so you could get messages about that. But there are different systems out there. I have to do a little bit of research on that, where you can do text, let's say youth to 40145, and then they can sign up for the program and stuff like that. So while we utilize Bitly here and we can do get your entries at this, you can also do sign up by texting youth to blank blank blank, and that tended to get a younger audience because then they would get the link straight to their phone. So utilizing tools like that where they can get instant text messaging would also be beneficial.
What was the name of the tool again? I'm sorry.
That was Capital Canary, but that was specifically for kind of getting people involved in political stuff. So I think there are systems like that where it'll probably cost less and it won't have all the same tools, but I mean I don't think you'll need them for creating sign up sheets for um like political stuff. And yeah,
Okay.
there's definitely systems out there where you can do the text messaging and stuff. And then again, that consistent branding, they can always text that number for you, you know. um and it'll kind of be like your unofficial like number, or your official number. But
Yes, I see Nelly mentioning Give Lively. I know Text to Give also has mobile donations, but I think you can use it for like almost everything too, where it's also just notifying you about other things as well. Diego, can you share also a little bit about when you're thinking about content to post? So obviously we have our programs, but like how do you come up with some other things to make sure that social media is kind of like always active, you know? Because you mentioned that you're scheduling out, which is helpful. So that way you don't have to be thinking about what to post every day, right? But like, what are the kinds of things that nonprofits can be thinking about posting? Because say if you have a lot of programs that only happen in the summer, for example, like what could be happening all the rest of the year so people still are reminded about you?
yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few routes you can go. I would always say like highlighting your team is definitely a great way to keep engagement going. One, it boosts morale within the company, but two, it's just it's a good way to be like, oh, this is what they do. Meet the team. We recently had, because we had quite a few additions, we kind of used it as the opportunity to reintroduce a lot of our members of the team. So we had like meet the team. Here's Bobo, uh, Jazz, obviously, and you know, Anna and so forth. So that's a good way to keep engagement. One good way to again keep people reminding about you, but also it's kind of a slippery slope. You can also do like sign up for our newsletter, or sign or follow us on YouTube and so forth. You can do that every now and then. But doing that consistently will become a little bit, again, it's like that thing of this is you're asking a lot of people, and that could lead to unfollows. So I would say like every now and then you could do like, oh, have you signed up to our newsletter? We have a newsletter every bi-weekly, so sign up in the link in our bio and so forth. um having some anniversaries as well. I believe we did one for Jazz a bit ago. Amptiversary. Having a little anniversary post as well. Those go well, again, like that team engagement. If you're doing any events, or if you're doing anything around the office, again, that human element, it could be honest to be like, it could be a little bit silly or a little bit cringy, but you could be like, Mondays, and have someone in their sweats and their coffee, and be like putting together stuff for 2024. It could be a little bit funny, a little bit human, and so forth. But the good thing about our organizations and nonprofits in general is that if you look around at your office, you will find people are doing amazing work. And so it's not going to be too hard to find that. So maybe they are doing workshops, maybe they're doing things on the side. You could find things to post if you kind of just search around, but definitely look inward when you're looking for that, I would say.
Awesome. And we have a question in the chat. Nelly, do you want to come off of mute and ask?
Yes, hi, sorry. I have a little bit of a cough that I don't want to like annoy people with my cough. But how often is it too often to post, for example, on Instagram, right? As opposed to doing stories or reels. What are your suggestions on that?
That's an excellent question. One, to go into stories for a moment, I would say that stories, you can fill those up with as much as you want. Those no everyone's clicking through those as much as possible. I don't think you're not going to engage with as many people, like people aren't going to click on all the links all the time or your post. But fill up your stories as much as you like. People love to look at stories, just like a quick glimpse. So those, go ahead and fill those up if you would like. As far as actual posts, I would say 2 to 4 is a healthy amount every week. If you're doing a little bit less or a little bit more every now and then, that's completely understandable. Sometimes there's more events going on. Sometimes there's not as much going on, and that just happens. But as long as I think if you're keeping that 2 to 4 a week, you're good. Now, if again, the like things happen, like sometimes statements need to be made, or again, we live in a pretty terrible world. Sometimes things happen, and it's important to make a statement, like anything like that. I would say like that is okay, obviously, but I'd say 2 to 4 is pretty good. I would say if you're posting on Instagram twice in one day, it would have to be for things that I'd say that are pretty important, like for your organization or for whatever reason. But I would say 2 to 4 is good. I would stick with 2 to 4. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm curious to know also, like, thank you for all that, I think those like specific numbers, like the schedule and like the timing of things, like that's really helpful. Like, I'm curious to know about putting those together, like how do you make sure you kind of like have a good variety of the types of posts that you're having, and like how do you kind of stay organized in doing that? Like, do you have like what do you do to kind of organize that for yourself? Like, is it like just like a long list that you have and you're like different posts? Like, how do you make that schedule basically?
Yeah, for sure. I think at the beginning of the week, I usually have a good idea of what needs to be posted. And so I try to have a solid variety. Sometimes you don't get to, like, again, like this the AMP season of giving. This is kind of what we're doing, right? So I know we're going to be doing this for a bit. So these are going to be kind of consistently. So how do I kind of change those up a little bit? That's kind of why we have the color changes. Just so that way there's a little bit of variety, and so forth. And the rest of them are going to have little bits of color changes, but like for example, here we go. We had the save. I knew we were going to do the save the date. I knew we were finally finalizing the meet the amped team, and we had a amped director on Spotify and so forth. So I was like, this is going to be a really good variety for the week. That's really good, right? And so I think it's kind of a mix of trying to figure out how can we do some variety and understanding that sometimes there isn't going to be any variety. That's kind of why these AMP donations look a little bit different, like the photos are in different places, so that way you're not losing too much interest. And that's why we have different color schemes and so forth. So just trying to, again, we have at the beginning of the week, we know what we're going to post. How can we make them look different? How can we keep that engagement going? It's different enough, but we also want to keep that consistent branding. It's a tough balance constantly of like, keep that engagement, keep them different, don't bother them, but also keep it consistent. Social media is fun. So yeah.
Thanks. No, yeah, you do a great job with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Diego, can you show us our LinkedIn too? Just so we can see the difference between some of the different social media platforms. I don't know how many people use LinkedIn versus Instagram. I know we don't really have a TikTok. I feel like Janet may need a TikTok if you don't have one already, if you're trying to get to the youth. But I feel like LinkedIn is also a good place for for fundraising too, right? In terms of being able to connect with other professionals who may be able to like grow that network.
Yeah, for sure. Give me one moment.
Yeah, of course.
I'm showing as a viewing as a member because
Mhm.
it doesn't look as nice from my end.
Yeah, no, of course.
Right now we currently have, I believe, about 1,100 followers on our LinkedIn. Obviously, AMPT is a great organization for networking. We work with a bunch of different nonprofits, so us utilizing LinkedIn is very on brand for us. So that's why this is one of our bigger pages. We consistently post. Again, I try to keep our posts consistent across platforms, but not every post is made with that platform in mind, if that makes sense. Like I said, like the photos that I had of Adilen from the last slide, while those are going to go across all of our platforms, the thought process is those are for Instagram. But show more. The Season of Giving one, this one was with LinkedIn in mind. We
Mhm.
tagged Angela and Anna as well,
Mhm.
like some of our bigger leaders.
Mhm.
We have all of our different hashtags. Black nonprofits, Latino nonprofits, Chicago nonprofits,
Mhm.
and it's anything with donating. LinkedIn is a good platform for that, right? Because again, networking and such. So yeah, this is our page. Again, not all posts do great on every platform. This one was me. I got two, and one of those was me. So it just happens. It's one of those things. But again, Angela and Anna got a little bit more love. And then we also we tend to share anything that brings us up. Anything that brings up AMPT, we like to share on LinkedIn because again, we want to highlight the people that are highlighting us, and so forth. So again, that's that LinkedIn ideas and so forth.
Awesome. Thank you. And we do have a question from Augie. Augie, do you want to come off of mute and ask your question, or I can read it out?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so I know that Twitter is having like a lot of different issues. It's been a very popular platform for people to communicate and to create change and just use it as a really good platform for spreading messages. And but now that like Threads is kind of coming into play, and I know that their hope is to kind of be like the next Twitter. I signed up. I'm kind of using it. I'm trying to gauge to see like how popular it's becoming. Like, what are you guys seeing as far as its usage, and are people kind of like moving from Twitter over to Threads, or are people kind of just staying put because it's like the place to kind of use right now still? Like there's so many people on Twitter that people are hesitant to kind of move over. What does that look like? Like from what you guys are seeing?
Yeah, for sure. Threads is an interesting. It's interesting because it's very new. We are utilizing it. I do think that one of these two platforms will die, I think, sooner than later. I think Twitter or Threads, one of those two are going to not necessarily entirely go away, but I do think that it's going to become less important in the same ways that MySpace is still technically around, but people don't necessarily use it. So I think that I would suggest creating a Twitter version of posts and consistently using that, and just copy and paste that and use that in Threads. I would say utilize both right now and see, because Threads has the possibility of taking over from what Twitter did, but it also has the possibility of also just kind of going away. We never know with social media. So I would say consistently use, if you're going to use Twitter or Threads, if you deciding which one to use, I'd say just use both and then just put the same thing on both of them, and then just keep those going. Right now, we're seeing that Thread users tend to be just our Instagram followers. Like they just are the people that are already following us on Instagram. So we're not really gaining new audiences with Threads. But that might change in the future. So both of those pages have grown for us slightly, like at the exact same rate, basically. So it can go either way, heads or tails, or both. It might just fail. So I would recommend just using both and seeing what happens. Worst case scenario, they just both die, and it is what it is, you know. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I would say, Diego, thank you so much for saying that about the copy and paste, because I feel like it's so important to just make the work as light as possible when it comes to these platforms, because you could end up spending so much time designing and doing all this stuff and you get like 2 likes, right? And so it can feel like so much effort and so much work for not that much reward. And something else that I learned from one of the people that I follow was like the real importance of remembering that anytime you're posting on social media, you're always kind of like at the behest of this like social media platform and the people who run the platform and the algorithms that they might do. And, like it changes all the time and it can feel so frustrating. And so, what's like really also important when you're thinking about social media is making sure that whoever is on your social media is also signing up for your newsletter and like keeping in touch with you in places that you can actually control the narrative so much more, because then you have so much like there's so much better, I think, control, for a lack of a better word, over the way that you're able to engage with them.
And you can if you link those all together, you can get people on your newsletter and so forth. That's why I always recommend linking all of your pages together somewhere. Bio sites is great, but also most social media platforms have the option to add your other social links. So add those as any way you can, definitely.
Yep. And we have a couple more minutes if anyone else has any other questions. And Diego, remind us again how long this strategy, this campaign, our end of year giving campaign is going to last.
Yeah, it'll go all the way through December to the beginning of January. I believe January 8th, I think, might be the last day. But yeah, so we're gonna be going on it for a while. We got a couple of really cool prizes I'm pretty excited about. And it's our first time doing anything like this, so this is kind of a swing, you know. And again, I always recommend with communications, almost everything is a swing. Definitely look at the analytics afterwards, see what worked, see what didn't. But there's nothing wrong with trying something new. It's better than doing something that you think everyone will kind of maybe like, you know. So try something different. You never know what's going to happen. So
that's awesome. Thank you. And yes, Nelly, these slides and the video will be shared with everyone. And Diego, I know you also use Canva a lot, right? Is there anything else that you would suggest people kind of dig into as they're thinking about creating their posts?
yeah, I would say I recommend BioSites is very good for adding your links and stuff. It's also changeable. Like you can, let me see if I can stop sharing my screen real quick and show. It's very useful. Like you can change photos and stuff. So if you'd like to add your own graphics to it, have some fun with it. Those very easy to use. Let me see if I can show you from the other end real quick. This is our bio site. As you can see, you can enter to win an Amped Season of Giving prize. Subscribe to Amped email list, Amped resources. This is all in our Instagram. But I was able to make these very simple graphics, add a little bit of our Amped colors in there. I definitely recommend people use that. And utilize Canva for anything and everything. Have some fun with things. So I love changing the colors. I think it's very easy. Trying to think of other good tools that we have. Canva, I highly recommend getting the $7. I think it's $7 a month, something like that, membership, because then you have access to all these different types of designs and styles and so forth, and they're very easy to use. Not to push this workshop again, but if you want any help with Canva design, you can donate to Amped, and you can get the I can show you how to use Canva as well. But yeah.
I know, just like a shameless self-plug. But also we're probably going to try to do a communications workshop specifically for nonprofits next year as well through Amped. And so that one you won't have to donate to, which will be a great opportunity to just kind of learn just hands-on techniques about creating different things for communications for your organization.
And I'm also like a lot of the things that I've learned through communications from School of YouTube. Definitely I always recommend utilizing YouTube. Someone's made a channel of how to do pretty much everything. So just look that up. Tutorials are all over the place, definitely for Canva. And I think you can make some really cool, interesting graphics with that. So yeah.
Awesome. Amazing.